What's up guys, my name is Andrew and welcome to Motorcycles Off-Road, where we do motorcycle reviews and other videos pertaining to dual sports and ADV motorcycles. In this video we're going to take on the large task of reviewing the Honda CRF300 Rally. Now a little over a year ago I did a review of the Honda CRF300L, which that video got over 215,000 views with an over 98% like ratio. In this video, I'm coming to you the same as I did in that video, which is not me being a new rider who's just happy to have the motorcycle, and also not a very big YouTuber who has to put a positive review out there to keep getting samples. I'm a middle of the road guy. I just love to ride motorcycles and dirt bikes, and I've been riding for over 20 years. So the content in this video, I hope to be informative and is clear-cut my honest opinion. So with that, I would like to thank you for clicking on the video, and I hope you enjoy and you get some great information from this video. And if you stay tuned to the end, I'll go over some mods that I've done on this bike that may help you get more performance out of the motorcycle, as well as other things I recommend. And also, if you do that, that really helps the channel. The longer you watch this video, the more it helps me grow this channel and this brand as a whole. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you clicking and I appreciate you watching. Thank you guys. Okay, on to the review. We can talk about the specs briefly. I will say the main thing that most people are interested in the specs will be the Honda is a 286cc fuel-injected engine. It has a 6-speed transmission. It has a 34.8-inch seat height, or 88 centimeters. It weighs 330 pounds, or 149 kilograms. And obviously, there's a lot more to the specs. These are the ones that people seem to be most interested in when they're looking to purchase a new dual sport motorcycle. So I wanted to briefly cover these specs just for reference. So off-road. I don't know really what I was expecting off-road. I mean, you think about it, you have the 300L, which is obviously marketed as more of an off-road dual sport compared to the Rally. But to be honest, there's little to no difference. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. These bikes are pretty similar. Now, I've taken my 300L through mud, up mountains, through the sand, through everything. And I would have to say the Rally is as well a fully capable motorcycle. It's balanced in such a way that it's nice and light that you can go through anything. There is a couple caveats to that we'll get into a second, but I will say with the Rally, it just basically feels like the 300L with more fuel. To be completely honest, there's tons of single trail and tight tracks that I actually don't feel comfortable taking my 10-Ray 700 through, but I always felt comfortable on the 300L, and the same with the Rally. Now you have to keep in mind, if going really hard off-road is something you're looking for, then maybe perhaps you will look for the L over the Rally, and that's mainly because the Rally is set up in such a way for wind protection and everything like this, and these items can easily break. For example, I bought mine from a guy who wanted a 300L, but they switched it up on him when he got to the dealership, so he ended up buying a Rally. Because of this, he cracked the fairings, he cut them, and replaced it with a skid plate, which is fine by me. I think this bike still looks pretty fantastic, though I kind of wanted the full fairing motorcycle. That being said, I dropped my 300L plenty of times, and I never had anything break. So at the very least, if you want to do hard off-road with your Rally, I would say get crash bars, but that is adding a little more weight. I don't have them, so I can't tell you the significance of the weight. I don't think it would make too much of a difference. The other thing to keep in mind is I had my 300L set up for mostly single trail. It was geared really low with a huge rear sprocket. I had very aggressive tires on it. Everything from that bike was basically turning it into a street legal dirt bike. If you were to do this with the Rally, I feel like you're kind of missing the point here, and you're starting to get to the point of diminishing returns, whereas you make it better for off-road, and now you lose a huge portion of on-road. So you really have to think about what you want. If you slap some 50/50 tires on there and you're doing fire cuts and the occasional single trail, you'll be completely fine, and this bike will be fully capable. Now, I will be remiss not to bring up the suspension because everybody wants to talk about the suspension, but we will go over that and my opinions about that on the two biggest complaints about this motorcycle coming up soon. Alright, next let's talk about on-road use. Okay, quick post-edit here. This is something I wanted to add in that I noticed I forgot when I was making the video, and that is I want to briefly talk about the tires, the IRCs. I've seen a couple different opinions going on out there. I will give you the no BS approach. So basically, if you want to use these tires for off-road, and you're a beginner, I feel like it's a negative and it will hurt your confidence because they will slide around and it would just make you feel not safe on the motorcycle. Now, that being said, using them for what the bike is for, mostly roads, some off-road as far as gravel trails and stuff, these tires are fine for that. The problem is a lot of times with beginners, they'll try to just go off-road with these tires and they also won't be somebody who deflates the tires. So they'll be running like stock air pressure and something like sand, and you will have a very, very bad day. Now, the devil's advocate for that is I just did a 600-mile motor camping trip over 5 days that was mostly off-road on sand. Now, I broke the whole bike apart to do my upgrades. I didn't have time to put on my rear sprocket, my chain, and my extra tire. So I ran the stock IRC in the rear for this whole trip, and I ran a Tusk D-Sport up front because I wanted something that would grab. I mean, the front is so much more important to me than the back. I don't want the front washing out the back and slide around and I can control it. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I just wanted to talk about the tires. And so you know, these tires are lightweight and smooth. They're not really aggressive despite them looking a little bit aggressive. They're mainly made so that you get a good experience the first time you're riding the motorcycle or during a test drive. And this way you're more likely to buy the motorcycle. All right, so now we can move on to on-road. On the road, well, I would have to say this motorcycle is fantastic. In its stock form, it's fully capable of getting up to highway speeds. Yes, you're not going to overtake a lot of people on the highway, but you will be able to get there. If you're like me and you ride a ton of back roads, it's fantastic. It's got a long range. I feel like the fairings and the windscreen add a little more to the wind protection that you don't really get with most dual sports. So it kind of does feel like you're driving an adventure motorcycle, which I really like. Now, if you find the motorcycle lacking at highway speeds, for instance, you want more open highway legs, it's a very simple process. You could take 2 teeth off the rear or add 1 tooth to the front sprocket, which I recommend more so, and doing this will adjust some rear wheel torque, so I suggest getting an ECU flash. 550 Performance offers a stage 1 with an exhaust, an intake, and the ECU. It really opens up this motorcycle for any purpose. I've been able to get up to 85 miles per hour, which is more than enough for any roads that I ride. I really don't want this bike on the highway, so for me, I'm actually going to gear it down just a little bit, and if you need help with gearing, you can put it in the comments below where I have a whole video about gearing and how it can affect your top speed versus your rear wheel torque. But overall, on the road, for what it is, this bike gets an A+ for me. I find it to be pretty awesome. Also want to talk about the elephant in the room per se, and that brings up 2 criticisms that people like to complain about this motorcycle. Interestingly enough, the people that complain about it usually are the ones that don't own the motorcycle, but I feel it's important for the review purposes because if you're watching this video, either you have a 300L Rally or you're thinking of getting a 300L Rally. You will hear the same things repeated over and over on the internet because the internet is just a giant echo chamber. In fact, out of curiosity, let me know below if you have a Rally and briefly tell me how you feel about it, what you really like about it or what you don't. Or if you're planning on getting one, let me know that below too. This way we can help out all the other viewers and they can go down below and see raw, uncut opinions directly from you guys. So the 2 negative things that you will hear about the most is the suspension is soft and the bike is heavy. So let's talk about these talking points. And you can hopefully get a different perspective from a real owner who owned both the 300L and now the Rally. The suspension is soft. Okay, by the way guys, I agree the suspension is soft to a point. In fact, I'm a bigger guy. I weigh 240 pounds or 108 kilograms, and honestly, I don't think it's too bad for me. I took the stock 300L up mountains, over rocks, through whoops. How do you feel we just did an expert trail? Yeah? Thumbs up. Alright. I just had my preload cranked all the way up, but I can't deny I'm super excited about this complete new spring I have sitting here from Cojet Dynamics, so my suspension will be upgraded soon as well. But for argument's sake, this is a 240 pound guy plus gear going over whoops. Something that is to be noted is most people who buy this motorcycle will not do anything super aggressive. They'll mostly be on gravel and light trails and the road, etc. The suspension is pretty good for that, and if you don't believe me, here's another YouTuber's opinion.
To get that, but I was quite impressed how smooth and comfortable the stock suspension is. Only bottomed it out one time the front, but apart from that, it's quite enjoyable.
See, I'm only 62 kilos, and
yeah,
it has bottomed out on a few jumps.
And that's the only place I bottomed it out. I wheelied over a crest, and when it came down, it bottomed out, not severely, but yeah, I was quite impressed.
I don't know if
on the light stuff, it absorbs everything and it feels great. So 90% of the people who buy this motorcycle will be completely fine with the suspension. But what you will need to do is you will need to set your preload. If you do not crank your preload, it will feel like it's sagging quite a bit when you get on the motorcycle. Honestly, I think Honda based the suspension on the world averages to appeal to mass riders. Let's look at the numbers real quick, and you can see how this suspension would appeal to a bigger mass than a super stiff spring. Also, to understand, one key goal of making motorcycles like this is to have them super smooth during the test drive, so people are more likely to buy it off of how good it felt during those 15 minutes of ride. Even though the pandemic kind of killed the whole test drive thing. It's crazy now. Like, dealers are like, oh, okay, you can buy this bike, you can't test ride it, and if you don't buy it, the 10 other people waiting in line will buy it after you. It's a shame. I hope supply chains get fixed so we can get back in control of this market, us as the consumers. But back to the preload. To have success with the suspension, you have to set the preload the best you can, and a lot of people will not even do this. You want to try to get the preload as close to 30% total sag under your actual weight with you and the gear on. There's a whole method of doing this. I can make a whole video for it if you guys request it, but for review purposes, we'll just say that most people do not set their sag, and this will contribute to a lot of people saying the suspension is horrendous. Now, I'm not saying these people are wrong. In some cases, they are completely justified. But we can all agree, with anything in life and anything on the internet, a ton of people like to complain without knowing even what they're talking about. So let's just say that and we can agree on that. And here's my friend who is 180 pounds plus gear going up some gnarly rocks. The next thing would be the weight, which we have to stop thinking of these motorcycles as dirt bikes. They are light adventure bikes. Being so, they're actually light in their class. Yeah, you could get a KTM 500 or a Honda CRF300L, but the thing about that is they are completely different motorcycles for different purposes. They're for riding hard and fast. They weigh a lot less, but the 300 Rally fits different needs, and it's for travel. If you're trying to do BDRs, the Trans-American Trail, stuff like that on a 450RL or a KTM 500, yeah, you can do it. No one will stop you. But to me, that's like saying you're going to go banging a nail with a screwdriver. I mean, it can be done. It doesn't mean you should do it. I'm like, hey guys, that's the wrong tool to bang into the nail. There's a tool for that. It's called a hammer. And they're like, no, I don't want to use a hammer. I prefer to carry a lighter tool, so I use a screwdriver. Okay, fine. But the 300 Rally is marginally more efficient at these tasks, just like the hammer is to the nail. So what are you really getting for all that extra weight? Well, fuel efficiency, fuel capacity, reliability, wind protection, and long service intervals. That's a lot. The 300 Rally can be compared to those other bikes, but just know the Rally is for a different purpose, and the extra weight will not be a problem for people who use the Rally for what it's actually designed for. No one who's doing a Trans-American Trail packed with luggage will care about the insignificant weight for the trade-offs that I mentioned previously. The last point I want to make about the weight, and me and other YouTubers have went on and on about how the 300L, it actually feels lighter than something, let's say, the WR250. Example?
This is if you're just looking at it on paper. Having ridden both of these multiple times on single track and really tested them out now, I can tell you that I cannot discern any difference in the handling, the flickability of the bike. I would even point out that somehow Honda has managed to make it feel less top heavy than the WR250R. I don't know how that works. Perhaps it's because of the center of gravity. Maybe the engine and the weight of the bike is a little bit lower.
The 300L is just balanced so well. It feels great. Now, if your argument is, I want to go with the 300L over the 300 Rally because weight, then please consider the 20 pounds additional weight that the Rally has over the 300L. Really, half of it is the fuel capacity. The actual fuel when they weighed the bike, because they weigh it full. So if you wanted to, you can get a little bit closer to the 300L by only riding around with the Rally with 2 gallons of fuel and still have 140 miles plus range. So I just wanted to address those 2 big criticisms that you'll hear a lot, and I wanted to flesh them out and give you my personal opinions. Okay, so at this point in the video, I want to talk about who is this motorcycle for, or who would this motorcycle benefit. Mainly, I wanted to put this section in so we can have realistic expectations for if you want to buy this bike, and you really have to think about what kind of rider you are. So I think the people that will benefit the most by this motorcycle, number one, first and foremost, is shorter riders. This motorcycle having only a 35-inch seat height, as we covered in the specs, makes it very easy whether you're male or female. You're shorter, you can get a foot to the ground, that's great, and it also doesn't sacrifice for ground clearance and the 21-inch front tire and the 18-inch rear that makes dual sports so popular. A lot of your ADV bikes do not have this, so I feel that's a big plus for a shorter rider. Number two, if you're a beginner, this bike is so easy to ride if you're a beginner. Everything's intuitive, the slipper clutch is forgiving. If you aggressively downshift, it doesn't lock up the rear tire and slide the rear in front of the front, which other motorcycles may. This bike also comes with an ABS option, which is great for beginners, and in fact, great for almost anybody on the road. Anybody out there that says, oh, if you need ABS, you shouldn't be riding, that's nonsense. I want more people into this hobby, not less, and ABS is a nice safety blanket to stop you from locking your bike up, which even the experienced riders have done from time to time, especially in wet conditions, leaves, stuff like that. So having ABS, you can't let anybody say anything negative to you. Also, I know a lot of older riders will benefit from this motorcycle. And what I mean by that is I have tons of people who message me in the comments or email me and say, hey, I'm an older rider, I'm 60 years old, whatever the age may be, and I put down the super fast bike or the super heavy bike and I went to the 300L or the 300 Rally and it's fantastic for me. I've got so much feedback from people saying that I think it should be noted. Also, back to the beginner rider, this motorcycle doesn't have a ton of power, but it has what I feel is the sweet spot of power to do whatever you need. Now, if you're a beginner and you hit a jump or you get a little bit off balance, you might accidentally goose the throttle and run the bike or yourself into a tree or just throw the bike out from underneath you. This bike is a little more reluctant to do that than something like a high-powered 50 horsepower KTM. And then, like I said, I think it's the sweet spot where it's like, yeah, it's not going to give you that adrenaline rush when you just pound the throttle and it just pulls you off the bike and you feel your arms pulling, but it's enough power to climb anything. It's enough power to get up to highway speeds. So all that's great. I did watch a YouTube channel probably like 6 or 8 months ago, and there was a couple and they did the Trans-American Trail and they did it on Honda Groms. Now that had to be tough. Now the 300L is so much more suited for something like this, having 6 speeds instead of, I think the Grom has 4, having more than double the displacement, and just so much better range. I would have to say this bike is almost perfect for anybody that wants to do long distance travel, BDRs, Trans-American Trail, whatever. I mean, there's not many motorcycles out there that you can get, and especially at this MSRP, that is basically ready for travel. I mean, you could put on some bags, maybe do the suspension, and that's it. This motorcycle is ready to travel across the country. It's already got the fuel capacity. It's got fantastic headlights. I mean, they look a little weird, the one bigger, one smaller, but honestly, the headlights are very good at night. I was surprised. I really love them. The seat is a dual sport seat. It's comfortable enough. I just did 600 miles on it. I just put a little over the top cover and that's it. And the last person obviously is somebody that wants a motorcycle that's going to be an ADV bike that's on a budget. I feel like the 300L and the 300 Rally are so budget friendly. You're getting so much for your dollar here. I know it's not the same in all countries, but at least here in America, Canada, I think in the UK, it's pretty affordable compared to some of the other motorcycles. I know it's one of the big debates of the WR guys. They're like, my bike is just better. And it's like, I kind of like the power range that the 300L, 300 Rally offers over the WR. I don't want to be screaming the engine all the time. I like the low end power. And then the bike is $1,400 cheaper. So say you wanted to do something like this on a WR, even if, let's entertain if they still made them, which they don't. You'd buy the WR. It's what, $1,000 more than a Rally. Then you still need the fuel tank. If you're going to load it up in any amount of gear, you're also going to need suspension, just like you probably would do on the Rally. And the Rally's better for hill climbs and that off-road grit. I've rode both side to side. I made a video on it. I just think the power range is superior on the 300L, and that's my personal opinion. If you don't agree, that's fine. I know there's a lot of really hardcore people out there for other motorcycles, but I just feel like Honda hit the nail on the head with this 300 platform, whether it be the L or the Rally. And the fact that those are options is amazing. Now, as I mentioned before, I shouldn't have to bring it back up, but the service intervals are fantastic. This bike is going on 2 years being out. People have put tens of thousands of miles on it, and I see little to no issues. Every once in a while, somebody with an issue pops up, but the amount of total miles driven, it's something to be expected that one in ever how many is going to have an issue. That's just the way it is with all vehicles. So I'd have to say reliability is another thing that's top notch, and that's being proven more and more as time goes on. So overall, there's many groups of people that can benefit from this motorcycle. If you are one of these people in one of these groups that you would classify yourself, I think you'll be pretty happy with it. But next, I want to talk about some modifications I've done to the motorcycle and maybe give you some ideas of things you could do to benefit you when after you get it or if you already have it. Though I feel the Rally is an amazing motorcycle and I feel like it would go great in anybody's garage, there is a few shortcomings that of course this motorcycle has. If you're a more experienced rider, you might feel a lack of power, you might feel the suspension as we talked about earlier, and depending on your specific purpose for this motorcycle, you might want to do some mods. So I can walk you through a little bit of what I'm doing, and maybe that could give you some inspiration of what you might like to do with your particular motorcycle. Now this coming from a guy who had the 300L, I built it all up exactly the way I liked it, I sold it to my buddy, and then I bought the Rally. In replacement of the 300L, I went more trail oriented with my KDX 200, which is a street legal dual sport in my state, and then got the Rally for an intermediate adventure off-road motorcycle. I still take it through single trail and stuff like that, but it's not as aggressive as my 300L was or as my KDX is supposed to be. And at the very top, if I want to do two-up riding, or long adventures or highway, my road bike is my Tenere 700. So you have to understand I have a 3-bike garage, so each bike serves a specific purpose for what I want it to do. That being said, a lot of people are going to build their Rally pretty similar to what I want to do, which is off-road, maybe 50% of the time, maybe a little less, but a lot of road travel and just overall light motorcycle. And I will do a couple videos in the future of mods. I was thinking about doing the top 10 mods, something like that, because people really like those videos, so they'll be coming, but I wanted to touch on a couple things here. Also, I want to say if you've been watching this long, I really appreciate it. My analytics say very few people do hang on this long, and if you are, man, you guys are awesome and you're my true fans, and actually let me know in the comments below so I can give you a heart. Just let me know that you've watched to now so I can heart your comment. Then if you want to support the channel even more, you can pick up one of these Rally t-shirts that we just designed. I'm shipping them out all over the US. You can go right to their website, motorcyclesoffroad.com. I'll have the link pinned in the first comment below. Also, I want to thank these patrons. They're the biggest supporters of the channel. On the Patreon, I release extra videos, modification videos, all kinds of stuff I don't put on YouTube. Extra content goes on the Patreon. The lowest tier is like $2 something a month. It's the best way to support the channel if you guys have faith in what I'm doing here, building my brand to eventually be more of a media source to review more motorcycles, etc. Anyway, let's go into the mods. So first and foremost, I think a 550 Performance ECU update is the best thing you can do overall. Now, even if you don't want to put extra exhaust, the basic modification with the standard accessories on the motorcycle is still a vast improvement. I personally haven't had that one, but I've talked to 2 people who have, and they said it worked out great. Now, the one I go for is the Stage 1. By doing the Stage 1, it really opens the bike up. He actually eliminated the 5K rattle, and overall just gives the bike so much more torque and oomph. Now, due to Stage 1, you also need an air filter, which I did the DNA air filter, which I used on the 300L. That's the only reason why. I haven't tested them side by side, anything like that. This is just the one that I use. I like reusable filters. I clean them once a month and then dry them out. And then this time I went with the Black Widow exhaust. Now, first go around with the 300L, I went with the Yoshimura, what's it, the R4, whatever it is, the Yoshimura pipe, which a lot of people have, and it was great. It was a good pipe. My thing about that is that's a $600 and some exhaust, full system, and I wanted to try something that was more affordable for a lot of other people. So I went with Black Widow, and actually Black Widow is fantastic. The sound is nice and deep, and they're very affordable options. For the Stage 1, you need more flow, so what you're going to do is you can get the Black Widow rear slip-on connection, which is basically half the pipe, because all the restriction is actually in the stock heavy exhaust, and Black Widow has tons of different options. So for like $200, you can get a full exhaust, then $100 you can get your air filter, and then send your ECU out to get flashed by 550 Performance, or you can just buy a whole new one if you want to spend extra money. But just say you send it out to get flashed, you're looking at a huge upgrade to this motorcycle, performance-wise, if your complaint was performance. Now, I also did the velocity stack, which is like a whole nother thing where you got to take the air box out, hone it out, and put a bigger air intake from the throttle body to the air box. I don't really recommend that for a lot of people, and honestly I don't really know if that made a huge difference, but I was going there anyway to do the carbon can removal, so I was going to do that too. But let's say you don't want to do any of that, you don't want to modify the bike, you don't want to mess with the engine. First and foremost, tires are almost a must for a lot of people. Depending on what you plan to do with this motorcycle, tires completely change how the motorcycle is going to react in specific conditions. So the IRCs are basic, they're not good for off-road. I noticed the Tusk D Sports or the D606 Dunlop on the rear are pretty good on the road, and they actually last a while and they perform better. They're almost like better in every way than IRCs in my opinion. So if you change out the tires and you put an aluminum rear sprocket, I forget what brand it is, it's a company I use, I think it's out of Utah. If you go check the Patreon, just scroll down, it's under free content, you'll be able to find exactly what sprockets I use. And then you do an X-ring chain, which gives you less resistance over the stock O-ring. You will see a dramatic performance right off the bat just by doing these upgrades. That's tires, sprocket, and chain. The motorcycle will just feel so much more free. You'll be able to twist and just rip the ground. Now I'm saying for more rear wheel torque, which is you add a couple teeth to the rear, but you may suffer some top speed, and especially if you don't do the ECU mod, maybe you might not want that. But this in combination with the ECU stage 1 and other modifications, man, these motorcycles are just completely different. If you go back and forth from one to the other, it just completely changes. Riding my 300L with all these modifications and then going on a stock rally, I was like, I need to go back to put my mods on. So yeah, those are the basics. I mean, besides like, a tail tidy and stuff like that, there's not much more you would really need to do. And I mean, part of the whole appeal of this bike is it's inexpensive, so it's also great that the modifications that you would do are also inexpensive, but those are the ones that I would recommend. As I said before, it's got lighting covered. The suspension, as long as you crank the preload and you're doing a 50-50, you'll be fine. Now, if you find yourself doing more rocks, more aggressive stuff, then yes, you're going to want to go to a suspension. I honestly can't tell you which one because I haven't tried them, but I have a Cogent Dynamic spring now, which I'm going to try, and it's a $750 unit, and they took a million questions from me to dial it in perfect for exactly what I want to do. I honestly can't think of any way that could have been smoother. For the price, it's standard for a lot of these suspensions, and then on top of it, full adjustability, and then all the qualifications to hand make this shock specifically for me. I just don't think any other company can compete with that. But I haven't tried it yet, so I don't want to say too much until I try it and that I know, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a fantastic experience overall because so far they've been great. But I'll have to give that a try. And that's about it. There's not much more for me to say about this review except for, the bike looks awesome, the aesthetics. I didn't even bring that up, but just by looking at it that it looks great. You either like it or you don't, and I feel like most people love it. Crash bars, rear rack, that type of stuff, make it more fit for your purpose. But yeah, that covers the mods, that covers the review. I hope you guys found this video interesting. Please hit the like button. If you know somebody that wants a 300L or you're trying to talk them into it to get them riding with you, share this video. Help me grow this channel because I've been working hard here for pennies on the dollar. No, I do it because I love it, to be honest. And I love being a part of the community, interacting with people, riding. It's just like my biggest hobby passion that I have. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe out there. My name is Andrew, and this is Motorcycles Off-Road. Thanks, guys.
This is the top of the world. We made it.